Hi, welcome to this training. I'm Ashley and this is Brian.
Hey.
We started this company because we are very passionate about helping people understand each other and understand themselves. So without further ado, this is our company, Disconnections. It's a professional training company. We have a lot of fun, but we still get serious sometimes. And that's it. We're going to show you a little bit about DISC.
Yeah. So DISC is essentially, it's a behavioral temperament kind of study around the way you think and the way that you interact with the world and the way other people think and the way they interact with the world and each other and things like that. And it's really, there's a lot of them out there, right? There's so many.
Myers-Briggs,
right?
Enneagram.
The sanguine, choleric, melancholy, phlegmatic, that one that's out there. There's the Cosmopolitan magazines that are like, figure out what kind of man is best for you and 4 easy questions. Those are, there's so many stuff like that that's out there, right? So what kind of makes DISC better than anything else that's out there? And what we feel like makes it probably better out there than anything else is the fact that it's so easily assimilated and understood, and it's so easy to even by the end of like this 20-25 minute training that we're going to do here, you're going to have a really good understanding of it. And even you could probably describe it to somebody if you've never even heard it before. And that was kind of our experience with it when we were first introduced to it. I was like, oh gosh, another personality test or whatever. And then I remember walking away from the conversation being like, wow, I understood that. And I'm starting to think about this person's this and this person's that. And it makes a lot of sense.
It gave us a language to understand ourselves and our strengths and weaknesses and other people,
right,
and how to relate to them better.
Right. So that's kind of the whole concept around it, but I want to jump into it a little bit deeper here. So you might be wondering why there are a picture of trees here. So this is actually, you can see the reference to the study down below on the bottom of the picture there. So that's actually one of the shorter URLs I could find that references this study. But essentially there's this dome, biodome, it's owned by the University of Arizona. Okay. And it's called Biodome 2 or Biosphere 2, okay, right? And what they did was they wanted to create this perfect environment to be able to watch how plants grow and develop in like a perfect environment. And so what they discovered was when they were planting trees actually matured way faster than they normally would in the wild, which they thought, that makes sense, right? But what ended up happening was when the trees got to a certain height and a certain level of maturity, they would literally stop growing and actually fall over. And they were really curious about that. Like, why are the trees just falling over? This is the most perfect environment. There's no animals. There's no, what do they call them? Loggers that are out there trying to knock them down. There's nothing that's in the environment that's going to harm them. Why are they just falling over? And what they discovered when they compared trees that were planted inside this biodome, this biosphere, is that, and they compared those against trees that were out in the wild, was that they had something, the trees that were out in the wild had something called reaction wood that was developed. And it was developed because when wind would push the tree or an animal would go up against the tree or something would happen and it would alter the tree a little bit, it developed stronger wood in certain parts of itself to make sure that it could resist the pressures that were pushed up against it. And that was a really amazing discovery. And it kind of goes to show you that even in nature, the most perfect environment for something isn't always the best environment for ultimate growth and maturity, right? So how does that translate to us? And how does it translate to DISC? And I always like to put this in here because I feel like, this is not a training that's going to solve all your problems. It's not a training that's going to take away all your issues and you're going to have perfect interactions and relationships with people for the rest of your life. But what we want to do is the same thing that trees out in the wild will do, is increase that reaction mentality. Instead of the reaction wood in trees, we want to increase that reaction maturity, reaction mentality, that reaction emotions to the people that maybe seem jarring or annoying or overwhelming or lazy or something. They just upset you. Now you have a key to actually understand them better. It doesn't make everything perfect, but it does make it to where you can understand these individuals, and hopefully through that, understanding somebody first, they can understand you better.
Yeah.
But
helps you not get mad at yourself either.
Right. Yeah.
Don't get mad at others when they're different or strange. And then when you mess up in a big way, you're like, exactly. Oh, that was because of my illogical,
Right. And so then that's a great point, because you may be surrounded by people, or in a workplace that you're surrounded by people that are different. And you may feel like something's wrong with me because I'm not like that person. I don't have the motivation as that person. I'm not as outgoing. I don't have as many friends as that person. Well, that's not necessarily because there's something wrong with you. It's just because you have a different temperament. You approach the world and think about the world differently. So what we're going to look at here is we're going to do a very quick, short training called Making Sense of Your People Puzzle. And now this is the most high-level overview of DISC that we have out there. We have trainings that go around your interactions with other people, how to present or sell to different personality types based off yours, how to deal with time management, how to deal with what's some of the other
we
ones?
have all these deep ones about building a better team, interaction dynamics. So this today is just kind of that 30,000 foot view overview.
Yeah. So all that stuff sounds great, right? But how do you do that? How do I take that first step towards understanding myself and other people better, right? So we're going to play a little game first. Now, for some of the personality types out there, they might be like, oh, a game, that's how you're going to teach me? That's not how this works. But this is actually a really interesting exercise to kind of facilitate a point that of how basically the rest of this training is going to go and why stuff like this is important. So what you see in front of you is a hodgepodge of numbers from 1 to 88. So what we're going to want you to do is don't start yet. No, don't cheat.
No cheating.
No cheating. But start on the number 1. Okay. And don't, like I said, don't start yet. But what we're going to do is you're going to start with 1. And typically we have pen and paper or pencil and paper for this. So you might not, it's not going to be as effective, but you can still on your computer screen or on your phone or tablet or whatever, you can find 1, and then we're going to want you to look for 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up through 88.
In normal succession.
But you're only going to have a minute to do it. So what I want to do is pause this video for a minute when I tell you to, and literally see how high you can go for a minute. And this is important. It's kind of a, it's an honor type, Scout's honor type thing. I only did a minute because we're going to do it again after you've learned some fun new things around how this works. So what we're going to do is start with 1 and count as high as you can for a minute. So go ahead and pause the video and just find 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, and see as high as you can go for a minute. And go ahead and pause it now, and I'll see you back in a minute. And did you pause for a minute? So hopefully you did. And if you didn't, that's fine. Maybe you're just like, I'm just checking this thing out.
I didn't get to interrupt them and distract them, Brian.
Right. So maybe you saw this and you were like, I'm going to see what these people are about before anything else. So let's take a look at this. So like I said, you were going to look for 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, so on and so forth, right? But what's interesting about this is you can see now I'm putting these 2 lines through it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if you can look at this pattern, there's a pattern to this. There's a way that it operates or way that it works, right? So you can see how 1's in the upper left, then 2's in the upper right, 3's in the lower left, 4's in the lower right. Then it goes back up to the upper left for 5, 6, 7, and 8. You can see how it progresses in that kind of like a Z pattern. And it does that all the way through up to 88.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
so what we're going to want you to do is go back through now and re-look at these numbers and recount all over again to get and see how high you can go this time. So what you want to do is pause this time
for another
and go
minute.
for 1 more minute, and we want to see how high you can go this next time. So go ahead and pause now, and we'll see you in a minute, right?
And we're back.
And we're back now. Sorry about that.
Did you get a way higher number?
Yeah, and hopefully you didn't pause it right when I accidentally went to the next slide. I keep doing that. But essentially, yeah. So what happened here, and what happens every time we do this, is without fail, people get a higher number the next time. So why is that? Why would somebody? Is it just because it's just because I knew where 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever that I got to the first number were, right? That's not necessarily true. The reason why people get sometimes, I think, double, almost maybe like sometimes people were like 18, 16, right around there. And the next time they do it, they get to like, 40 or something higher, 50.
Don't feel bad if you didn't.
Don't feel bad if you didn't. Some people start at like 8, and they, like one person we've done this for, they did 8 the first time and 30 something the next time. Because they're like, oh, of course I know where it is. It's the pattern. I got it right here and then here.
Yeah.
I know exactly where to go and what to look for, right? And that's kind of the whole concept around how this training works. This is important. So once you know how something works, it's easier to do, right? So the same thing applies to people. Once you understand why people are the way that they are, or their communication styles, it's way easier to actually connect with them in a meaningful way. And there's
how they operate.
And there's a really great quote by Dr. Robert Rome, who kind of developed a lot of this stuff, was, if I understand you and you understand me, doesn't it make sense that we can have a better relationship? And that's really the whole premise around all of this, is we're going to give you that tool to help you understand yourself first and foremost, and other people after that. So I'm going to hand it over to Ash here to describe this next slide, because I think she does such an amazing job describing this particular slide.
So everybody is wired differently, kind of like what we've been saying all along. But we want to ask you two questions. And this first question is to better understand yourself and others. So the first one is, are you more outgoing or reserved? Now, the way I like to put it is, because a lot of times when I ask people this, they'll think they're outgoing when they're actually just people oriented. So the way I actually want to ask you this question is, are you more fast-paced or are you more slow-paced and reserved? And you can kind of equate this to your motor, like a car motor. Like if you're more outgoing and fast-paced, your motor is like this. You're always ready to go. Like, well, you're the one.
And nobody is 100% one and 0% the other. Everyone's a blend here. That's really important to understand, and we're going to emphasize that a little bit more.
You tend to lean one way. So you can change your mind in an hour. You can be 51%, 49%, but which one are you more of? Mm-hmm. And that's my favorite. And the reserved motor, just for fun, is more like this. And then when they get excited, so just not quite as fast-paced as the outgoing types.
Right. So once again, these are actually interesting questions that you can ask individuals when you're kind of getting to know them a little bit. You don't walk up to them and be like, are you more outgoing or more reserved? Because they're going to be like, well, I'm more reserved around you. I'm not going to be very outgoing. Right. But you can just get into general conversations, and you can be like, so you feel kind of like maybe you're more outgoing, or you're more reserved, like you stay at home more, you like to kind of be out and about. And there's fun ways you can phrase this. Mm-hmm. So we cut the circle side to side that last time. Now we're going to cut it up to down, up and down. Mm-hmm. And we're going to ask the next question is, are you more task oriented or people oriented? And this really, once again, gets back into that aspect that I was talking about earlier, is the beauty around DISC is it breaks down to these two questions. If you can get good answers to these two questions from individuals or yourself, you can pretty much understand a lot about how that person or yourself approaches the world and thinks and challenges that they interact with and things like that. It makes that type of stuff so much easier with just two questions, right? So that Cosmopolitan magazine that I referenced earlier for the perfect guy in 4 questions, I got you beat. I can do it in 2. So
this is simpler, but it is
it's way more deeper than the Cosmopolitan magazine or whatever's out there. So the next question is, am I more task oriented or more people oriented, or am I more like high tech versus high touch? So once again, nobody is 100% one or 100% the other, right? You're going to be a blend. So you have to ask yourself, even if it's like 51%, 49%, you're not married to anything, especially because we have way deeper assessments that we provide
that give you an exact range of how much you have of each type. It's really cool.
Yeah. And so we have leadership assessments all the way to just some of the basic stuff to, even if you're just curious after watching this, I'm just curious what I am. We have really great assessments that you can take for this as well. So kind of putting these all together now, you can see where we have, once again, that outgoing versus reserved, top to bottom, and task versus people. You can now see that we have outgoing task-oriented, which are the Ds, and we'll explain the symbols, and we're going to jump into some more descriptors around these types of individuals in a little bit. We have the outgoing versus people-oriented. Then we have the reserved or slower-paced people-oriented individuals. And then we have the reserved or slower-paced task-oriented individuals. So let's dive into the D temperament type, the I, the S, and the C. We're going to give you some really cool words and some really quick, easy hooks to be able to better understand these types of individuals. So first and foremost, we're going to jump into the Ds, right? So they're going to be very dominant. When they're in situations, they can almost walk into a room and they'll dominate that situation right away. They'll take control of those types of things. They're going to be really direct because, once again, they're those task-oriented individuals, right? So they're going to want to get right to the point and figure it out and go right at it. They're going to be really demanding because they want to get the job done. That's where they want to head towards a particular goal or objective. They're going to be really decisive. That, once again, goes back to that task-oriented aspect of things. They're going to want to make that decision quick, right? And they're going to want to jump right into it so they can get the job done and move on to the next thing. Yep. Be really determined because, once again, their goal, they're going to want to get that task done.
The goal.
And doer. They're going to want to, once again, reiterate everything I've just been saying. Get stuff done. Do it. Just do it would be their favorite slogan, right?
Just do it.
But this last one that you see is red here. That actually is interesting because there is an aspect of this where maybe you're seeing this and you might know somebody who's a little bit like this, but not quite. There's actually an out of balance or an immature aspect that we all experience. And everybody has a little bit of each one of these four, right? But in different varying degrees. So that's important to remember. There's a blend to this. So maybe you feel like you're more S at the end of this, but I'm really decisive. I take action quickly. There might be aspects of that. Everybody has a blend, but we can also be out of balance. We can also get under high pressure and we have a reaction to things that's not exactly highly positive. So in those regards, sometimes Ds, when they get out of balance, they can be very defiant and they can almost like bowl people over, just really knock people over because they're so defiant and what they want to get done, they don't care and they're just going to knock everybody over and just go take care of things, right? So that's kind of an out of balance aspect of things.
We know because we have a daughter that's a high D.
Right, and yeah, our daughter's a high D. So instead of trying to change her, right, and make her, more whatever we want her to be, we're going to work within her strengths. So what we like to do is give her like a checklist of things. So if we need chores that we want her to get done, what we'll do is we'll put her chores in with the playtime or whatever else it might be.
And give her a choice. Do you want to clean your room before or after lunch?
Right. So because D's really like those choices, control and challenges. Yeah. So we're going to jump into the next one here. I'm going to let Ashley take care of the eyes. And you might know why I'm letting her do the eyes.
Because it's my dominant. It's my number one. I have it at 100%. So is it this one or this one?
No, you got it.
Okay. So eyes are inspiring. Thank you. Stop it. Eyes are influencing. They're impressionable. We do tend to be impressionable, whether that's good or bad. Interactive, impressive, and involved. But when we get out of balance, which my husband can attest to, okay. I can, and we eyes can become illogical. I'm sorry.
Right. No, it's not a big deal.
No, it's fun. It's fun because now that we know this stuff, we don't fight about it. He'll go, babe, you're becoming a little illogical. Let me get you back to logic. It's pretty fun.
Yeah. Well, and it also helps with understanding that for her type of temperament. Because when I first met her, she sometimes would tell these stories that I was there and I was around her, and she'd be telling the story to somebody like a month or two later, and I'd be like, that's not how it happened. Is she a liar? Did she just make stuff up? And it's not, because you talked to her after. I talked to her afterwards, and I was like, honey, that's not how that worked. And you're like, yeah, it was.
In my mind, that's how it happened. Because the story was grand and
big, and she wants to be this inspiring, influencing, impressionable type person.
Entertainer.
That loves to entertain, but that also comes with a little bit of being illogical. So be forgiving of the I-type personalities, please. It's very important.
Eyes just want to have fun. Okay.
All right, and then I'm going to let you also do the S's as well.
I will do the S's because my S is above the midline. It's not my dominant, but S's are so supportive. So
this is here. The good thing to point out here, once again, so now this is the people reserved, whereas the I's were the outgoing people. So we're kind of moving around that circle a little bit. So they're still people oriented, but now instead of being more faster paced, they're going to be a little slower paced with these types of individuals.
You're still people oriented. You still love the people. You're going to focus on the people, but you're much more slower paced.
Right.
So you're going to be the supportive one that's there beside people. You're going to be steady. You're going to be stable, sweet. My son is an S.
Yeah, I think he's an S. Yeah, he's
we think so. It's hard when they're 3, but status quo, what that means is you kind of like things to stay the same. You can be shy. And then when S's are out of balance,
they can be a little bit susceptible. And this used to actually be sucker, but we wanted to change that.
We felt like that one was...
That's a little harsh, right? But everybody has a blind spot, or everybody has that downfall when they're out of balance, right? It doesn't make them worse or better than anybody else. It's just we all have that area that we
it's only when you get out of balance or out of control, you get susceptible, can become someone who's walked on. And it's because you're so sweet and stable and caring.
Right.
And it's not your fault.
And it's important for individuals like this to exist, obviously, because that stable aspect of things is going to make sure that projects get done or the family is taken care of. There can be the rock of the entire family. They're very can almost be like, for females, it's be very motherly, right? And for men, it can be very warm and welcoming. And you almost feel safe around this particular, like a Mr. Rogers was an S. Everybody felt safe around Mr. Rogers. And everybody, you hear people about their moms. It's just, my mom was the rock of the family or whatever. That's because she probably was that S. She was that stable, steady Eddie, taking care of the family approach.
Love it.
All right. So then we're going to move on to the C's. And as you can see, there's some pictures here that you might see the different poses. These are you can almost tell body language from looking at a few of these. So they kind of keep those in mind as well. So when you're looking at C's, they're going to be very cautious. So once again, these are the task and reserved oriented, or the slower paced individuals, right? So they're going to focus on getting something done, but they're not going to be, they're going to be, obviously cautious and calculating. They're going to be very competent because they know what they're doing. They're going to, they measured once. Yeah, what is it? Measured twice, cut once, right? Instead of measured once or just eyeball it and cut it like a D would do. So they're going to be very conscientious. They're going to be very contemplative, going to be very careful. They're going to be the type of individual who will wake up in the morning, and instead of reaching a cup of coffee, they're going to grab the consumer reports, and it's going to get them so excited to read that consumer reports in the morning. Going to get them jazzed up because they're going to know about the new dishwasher that just came out from.
And every detail about it.
Yeah, and every detail about it. And then they're not going to forget it. And then when they have their friend, 3 months later, it's like, I need a new dishwasher. Like, you're going to want to look at the Maytag model GY3. It has the best.
Wait, why did C's become rednecks?
No, sorry. Yeah, sorry.
We didn't mean that.
No, I wasn't even trying to picture redneck. I was trying to think like, I know the answer type individual. Smart. So here's the problem with C's: when they get out of balance and they get so focused on a task and they stop caring about people, and that's all they get fixated on, they can come across as cold to other individuals. So a great thing to think about here after we've gone through these, and we're going to wrap it up here in a little bit, is who do I know that's like this? And this is a really fun exercise that you can do, is take a list of like 10 people that you know, that your friends or coworkers or family or something like that, and write down, I think they're a D, or I think they're a C, and maybe come up with a couple of reasons why based off some of the words that we gave you here and the approaches. But keep that in mind with this next part. These are going to be some of the motivating factors around certain individuals. So like, let's jump back to the D's here. So D's like to win because they're very competitive, right? They like to plan for the future because they love to get tasks done and hit goals. They like new ideas. They like results because, once again, they're task-oriented individuals, right? They like to be their own boss. They don't like being told what to do. That's why they like to be their own boss. If they like choices, controls, and challenges, and they don't have any choices and they don't have any control, they're not going to be very happy. And a boss provides 2 out of 3 of those. So keep that in mind as well, as if you're working with a D and they're like a subordinate or something like that, that you need to make sure that, hey, I need to give them really good challenges and give them control and freedom around certain things.
D is my second one, so I definitely agree.
So, and then they also like to move fast because the faster you move, the quicker you get things done. And obviously, like I had mentioned, they like challenges as well. So with the I's, they like to be liked because they're people oriented, and relationships are really important to them. They like expressing their ideas and feelings, especially to a group of people, because they like attention and recognition. So that's not necessarily in a bad way. They're not like look at me, social media pictures of me with my food that I took 1,000 pictures of this morning. They don't like that. They love that connection with people. Right. And it's important for them to have that energy of people that are around them. A good
example of that is I was a theater major, and then I moved to Los Angeles to pursue film acting, and I actually hated it. Not completely, but just because I didn't have that energy of the crowd and I couldn't feel the connection.
Right. And that's important for her. So they also like I said, what did I miss here? I think I pretty much did all of them. They like to have lots of fun activities because having fun, and they like making sure that others are having fun as well. That's like the most important thing to an.
We don't need to go to the party because we are the party.
Exactly. All right. So the S type, the reserved or slower paced, people oriented individuals, they like to be accepted because they are also people oriented. They're similar to the I's in that regard, but there is a difference between accepted and liked. Right?
And recognition.
And recognition, right. So they like teamwork and they like cooperation because they like helping others. They like sticking with what works because finishing the job is actually important to them as well. Once again, it goes back to that steady Eddie. You're gonna be able to put them on a task or something, and they're gonna get things done and make sure everybody is taken care of along the way. So we actually have trainings where we go through what type of job roles are best for particular individuals as well. They like harmony because helping others is important, right? They like to stay the same because if it's not broke, don't fix it. And then they like that appreciation, which is, once again, a little bit different from the I who likes like recognition. It's like the difference between, hey, I appreciate you. I appreciate that. Thank you. And welcome to the stage, Ashley Strand. She's like, recognition. There's a huge difference between that recognition.
As you mature, you maybe don't need it as much.
But it still is that people feeding the energy off of the people with that. All right, wrapping it up now with the C's. They like to be right, mostly because they pretty much always are. They like to know what is expected out of you so that they can be prepared. They like to have an established pattern because if it's predictable and they think in concepts. C's love to think in those concepts. They like very clear instructions so they can give you very clear outcomes. They love finishing what they start. Once again, they're task-oriented individuals as well. And they like organizing things because they're a very logical individual. Okay, so maybe this is something you want to rewatch a couple of times, these little segments of here. But once again, go back and try to think about people in your life that maybe fit some of these things. And once again, nobody is one without any of the other. Everyone's a unique blend of a lot of these things. And that's where it's important to take like an assessment and really dive deep into
it's really cool reading your exact blend.
All right, so now we're back to this, but we're gonna bring in a couple of other things. We're gonna bring up some secret tips for each and every individual personality or temperament blend here. So the secret tip for the D's are, before you can be in authority, you must learn to be under authority, right? The secret tip,
that's hard.
Yeah, the secret tip for the I's is, it's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice.
I thought we were nice. We are nice.
Yeah, you can be. The secret tip for the S's is, you may actually help other people by saying no. This is really hard for S's to hear. Saying no is a huge quality to develop within yourself, to be able to say, you know what, I'm not going to give you another $10,000 today, Uncle Joe, because I think that you need to maybe go out and get a job now, and something along those lines.
Something like that.
Right. So then the secret tip for the C's is going to be, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So here's a bunch of cliches on the screen.
But that one's a tough one. They want to be right, but do you want to have a relationship, or do you want to be right?
Right. And the C's probably want to be right. So
they want to be lonely then.
Right. So, they might not mind that. So
yeah, true.
There's nothing necessarily wrong with that. That's the temperament. Everybody's a blend, once again.
They're the ones writing all our textbooks and.
Right. So now think about this. So we're going to do the percentage of the population. This is where it gets really interesting.
Oh, this is really cool.
So the D's, the D predominant personality styles or temperament blends, they make up 10% of the population.
The entire population.
Entire population, which is, thank God for that, because if there were more D's than that, it'd be overwhelming. D's are the industry makers, the movers and shakers, the pioneers. They're the ones who you're like, man, I would have quit 1,000 times ago, and they're still coming up with new ways to do things. And like, how do they keep going? Where's their drive come from? They can be so overpowering to be around. 10% is a good number. The percentage of the population, their symbol is an exclamation point, because they are emphatic. They like to be in charge, and they are all like, let's go do it. Let's like I said, just do it is their slogan. So the percentage of the population that are I's are 25 to 30%. And their symbol is a star, because they love to be the star of the show, don't they, hon?
Yep.
All right. And then for the S's, the percentage of the population for them is going to be 30 to 35%. That's the highest one. They have the highest percentage of the population, which I think is awesome, because we need more of that. The world needs more of that.
God knew we needed it.
Yeah. We need more people in the world to help people out and take care of other people.
Stable, supportive.
Yep. So their symbol is plus or minus, because harmony, they can go either way as long as it's harmonious, right? They want to make sure that there is harmony and peace in a situation. Yeah. So the percentage of the population who are C's are 25%, right around there. And their symbol is going to be the question mark, because they like to ask high quality questions.
And get high quality answers.
And get high quality answers. Yeah. Okay. So that pretty much wraps up.
Can I say one more thing?
Absolutely.
If you'll notice, the 25% to 30% of the I and the 30 to 35% of the S, those are your people oriented. So that's like 65%, right? Ish. So the world is more people oriented, and that's your compass.
Right.
Are you more people oriented or task oriented? So if you know that we lean more people oriented, and you are a high task oriented individual, you really will want to learn people even better.
Right.
And vice versa.
Yeah, and that kind of brings up a very good point that I'll wrap up with this and kind of tie it up in a nice little bow to conceptualize and remember this by. So if you think of the outgoing or the faster pace versus the reserved or slower pace, think of that as somebody's motor, right? They're still they're on the same racetrack as you, but maybe you're going way faster, right? And if you're more of the faster paced individual, but then think about the task versus people oriented individuals. That is somebody's compass in the world. What is guiding them in their actions, in their focus, in their thoughts, and what they want to accomplish out of life. And what's really interesting about this is major conflict typically derives not from somebody who's slower or faster, but more as task versus people. Because the thing about it is if you think if both people are task oriented, they're at least going towards the same objective. They have the same goal. They're moving in the same direction. Same thing with the people or individuals, but they might just be slower in the way that they're getting there. And there's not going to be near as much conflict. But if you have in a relationship or a marriage or a workplace, people who are more, you have one person who's very people oriented and another who's very task oriented, they're going to have completely different focuses, have completely different desired outcomes, set completely different goals for themselves or their family or their workplace. And that's where a lot of that strife and conflict come in. And that's really where I think the beauty of DISC really lies. So once again, I'll kind of wrap it up with this. These are some of the other things that we love to teach on. We have the fun book, which is really great for small groups or even large groups. It's about an hour and a half. Individual personality dynamics.
That goes really deep, understanding yourself. And then the interaction dynamics goes with your interactions with other people. The DISC Advantage is the most comprehensive. It's really detailed. It's almost a half to a full day training. How to build stronger teams using DISC. That's another fantastic one. Adult Profile is really great in regards to, once again, it's very similar to the fun book. Presenting with Style is going to be very much so have to do with almost like selling, like, hey, if I'm this personality style and I can identify that this person's another personality style, how do I interact with them? What do I have to work on, or what do I have to look for? And we obviously have time tips, which is like basically time management for different personality blends. I like that one because not you can see all these little, time management trainings and things that are out there, and they all have this universal answers for everything, when really we need to be taking a temperament approach to time management. Here's something really cool. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but something I really want you guys to know before we get off here is you have your exact blend, and everybody on your team has an exact blend. And so when you have your assessment and you can look, and we can actually put it in a software that does the interaction between you two. We can figure out conflicts. We can figure out where you guys work together best and least. And then the two questions we asked you at the beginning, fast-paced and slow-paced, or task and people, you can actually ask prospects or potential hirees these questions and kind of get an idea before they even take an assessment. So this can be real basic and simple like that, or we can go real deep into your specific blend. It's
really neat. It's a lot of fun, and there's people learn a tremendous amount. And I think that's the best part about it is it's so easy to understand and assimilate. And even if you walk away and you only capture like 10% of it, the 10% that you take away with is monumentally changing towards your entire approach around the world. You can now look at everybody differently and think, oh, that's why they're like that. Not like, that person's really, really weird. They're like overpowering. What's going on with them? You can be, oh, they're an I. Oh, okay. All right. That's cool. I got it. So that's it. We're a little bit over time on this one, but it's something that I wanted to make sure I hit all the information as well. So there's our information up on the screen if you're curious about reaching out.
Excited to connect with you.
If you're curious about taking one of the assessments that we mentioned in here, you can obviously reach out for that as well.
Shoot a text or an email and we'll get you the link.
All right. We'll talk soon. Bye.
Bye.